Hi there, welcome back to Quilt is Inspired. With this demo, I'd like to show some basic embroidery stitches that I went through in the book. With the Quilt is Inspired approach, not only can you quilt as you go, but you can create each section with as much or as little detail as the mood strikes. By working a few basic embroidery stitches, you can achieve a beautiful, highly textured masterpiece that will be embedded right into the body of your quilt. Just like the wool embroidery that I did here, that has been inspired by the Nordic region. So let's gather some materials and meet at the demo table. We're going to go ahead and start with a French knot right in the center. I love to build a design from the center working out, so why not? This could actually be a quilt block later on. So I've got a size 5 DMC floss, and that is threaded, about an 18-inch length, and knotted. We're going to start right in the center with the French knot. Just come up right through from behind. Okay. The secret to the French knot really is about holding your working thread. So we're going to hold it out to the side. I'm in my left hand because I am right-handed, so reverse it if you're left-handed. But basically what you're going to do is hold this taut, take your needle, and spin it 1, 2, 3. You can do as many times as you want. 3 is just a good average size. Take your thread, wind it underneath the needle, and then pop that needle right back in almost to the right same spot. I think I'm about a thread or 2 away. Hold this taut while you slowly pull down. And that gives you that nice dimensional knot that won't get sucked in underneath your fabric, which so often happens in a French knot. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch to a different color right now. So rather than weave in every time, I'm just going to leave that hanging. That's no big deal. It doesn't bother me so much. And then it's nice because it's already threaded and in there, and when I want to go back to that color, I'm good to go. My next color, with a DMC cross-stitching thread that I've already split. The big secret to splitting, I'm using 3 strands here, is just to cut maybe an 18-24-inch length and hold the 3 strands in each hand and just peel them apart really slowly. When you do that, then you won't have any knotting. If you try to go too fast, you're going to have that crazy knot. So to thread it, here's another little top secret I've got for you. Take your thread and pull it over your needle, over your needle. Hold down, pinch it real tight, slide your needle out, and then take the eye of the needle and put it right on top of that. Kind of wiggle it in, and then just grab it from the other side and come on through. And that is the simplest way to thread your needle. We're going to work that quilter's knot. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have that nice knot under there. It's perfect. And then go right underneath and come up about 1/8 of an inch away from that French knot. I'm going to work some lazy daisy stitches around that knot just as per the pattern in the book. Okay, so you notice I've got the thread laying around in the direction that I'm going to have the top of the petal. I'm going to go right back into that same spot, come out 1/4 of an inch away, and my needle is going to go over that thread. That's how you're going to catch the loop. Do you see that? So I'm pulling it really slowly. Okay, and then to lock it into place, you're going to go over the top of the loop and go about 2 threads away from where your thread is exiting out of. And pull on down. Okay, and then you can come up on the other side of that knot. And I work away from me, so I'm going to spin the piece. And again, just lay the thread loosely in that pattern, in that petal pattern. Go right into the same. Come up 1/4 of an inch away. The needle is over the thread. And then a little shortcut for your next petals. You can go again over your loop, come through, and then just come up in one motion on the side. Okay. Alright, I'm going to whiz bang through this. Okay, the back stitch is a really great way to outline a shape without any fancy stitches. It's just a single straight line of stitching. I love the Sew Line chalk pencil. We're just going to go ahead and draw this little temple shape, which seems to be the shape that I always draw. I mentioned in the book that I keep drawing the same shapes over and over and over again. There must be something to that. And I'm not trying to achieve perfect symmetry here. That's close enough. I like that sort of handmade look, so I don't try to go really insanely perfect. I think it's just more interesting that way. I'm going to go ahead and split this for you so you can kind of see what that looks like. Okay, slowly, whoop, 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 whoop. That's that crazy knot I was talking about before. Okay, real slow. When you get to that place where it's starting to knot up, just put it down. This is definitely longer than the 18 to 24 inches I was talking about. That can happen. Okay, and then just split it apart. Run your hand along the length of it. And then again, we're going to just thread the needle as I shown you. One, two, three. Starting the back stitch, you don't want to start right at that line. You want to start just, I'd say, 1/8 of an inch, depending on how long you want your stitches. This is kind of a curvy design, so I think that's probably good. Come up. Now, what you're going to do is you do want to go into where the line started and come up about 1/8 of an inch away from where it's exiting out of. Go right back into the line and come up another 1/8 of an inch away. So the thread that's exiting out of the fabric, that will always lie in the middle of where the needle is going in and coming out. Alright, I'm going to speed demon right up to the top, and then I'll show you how to work the point. Come right out the point. Go into where you normally would, and then just come out 1/8 of an inch away. So you're really kind of coming out parallel to the bottom of the design. And then it's just like starting that line over again. So for this outline, we're going to go ahead and work a stem stitch. It's also called an outline stitch. It's a little bit more challenging only because you have to keep in mind that the working thread always has to be on the same side every time as where your needle is. So either you will always be keeping it on the outside, or you'll always be keeping it on the inside. In this case, we're working kind of an outer curve, so we're going to want to keep the thread on the outside. We are going to come up right at the starting point, right at the drawn line. Take your needle and come in, and then exit back out on the right side halfway through. And you see how my thread is always above. It's always just going to be above. In fact, just take the thread and just put it under your thumb and hold on to it, and then you really don't even have to think about it. Okay, you're coming up a little bit away, and you're just going right back and coming up just... You can come up in the same hole. You can come up just, I like to come up just sort of on the inside of it. Just sort of find a spot and stay consistent. The best way to get a nice even stem stitch line is to keep your stitches really short and uniform. You wouldn't work all the way up here you'll see it peeking out on either side of your line, and it does interrupt that flow of that line. So just keep your stitches real short and real uniform. And it's just a thicker, kind of a more intricate line than the back stitch that we performed. And then just go right down into that point. Just work it all the way back down, keeping that thread always away from you. Alright, I've drawn a couple little leaf shapes on the sides here and rethreaded my needle with the original French knot color. We're going to show you how to do the fishbone stitch. So that's how we're going to fill in this leaf. Okay, you're going to come up about 1/4 of an inch from the point in the center. Insert your needle right into the very point of the leaf and come out about 1/8 of an inch away. Okay. Now insert the needle right below, not in the same hole, but just underneath the bottom of that line, center line, and then come up on the right hand side of your drawn line, parallel to where you've cut the I'm a knitter, the thread exiting out of the left hand side. Okay, and that's really basically it. It's pretty simple. Keep going into the center line and come out just below the previous line on that side, on the other side, so you're going to be alternating sides every time. Below, come out on that chalk line. That chalk line will disappear really fast as you do this. You won't even see it. Just makes the most beautiful leaf or tree pattern. And you can draw the center line too if you want to. I sort of like a meandering center. I like a little bit of anarchy in my embroidery, so totally up to you. Alright, now we're going to work a couple of little feather stitches, which are very similar to the fly stitch. It's just that this keeps going. Now the feather stitch, you don't start at the base of it, you start at the top. So if we wanted a sort of a meandering branch to come out, we're going to kind of visualize where that's going to come out of. I'd say that's probably a good start. And this is another one of those where you just want to hold the thread in place on top, and that way you won't get confused on why your threads are getting sucked up into your fabric, because the needle needs to go over the thread again, just like in the Lazy Daisy. Alright. Now if we were just going to do a fly, we would end it by just putting a little stem on it and calling it good. But with the feather stitch, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go on the other side of it, and you can stay sort of parallel and then come back down again over the thread. And pull. You sort of want the middle stem to kind of meander down, maybe at the base of that leaf. So I'm going to just sort of think about where that stem is going to lie. Now let's say I messed up and I forgot to put this underneath. By the time you get, if you go real slow, by the time you come out here, you're going to know that you're not going to get that proper stitch, because you see, if I just, now I'm out here in the distance with nothing to anchor. All you have to do is just lift up on that, tuck your needle underneath that loop, and you're good to go. So it's not a big deal if you forget. You'll get to know it. It's pretty simple to fix. Okay, and then here, let's make our little stem come down. I know that this thread needs to go underneath. Oops, get caught up here underneath, and then pulled out. Now if you want to work a double feather stitch or a triple feather stitch, then what you would do is you would stay on the same side of the stem. So if I were to do a double, then I would still be on this side again, but since I'm just working single, then I would alternate. Here the stem is as long as I want it. I'm going to go right into the base of the leaf and end that one. And then I'll probably work one up here on the other side. I don't want to achieve too much symmetry here. I'm going to lose some interest. As you can see, my leaves aren't perfectly symmetrical. I really just like the look of a hand-drawn, hand-embroidered piece, not to mention the fact that it's way less work, so I'm a huge fan of that. Okay, so that's basically it. This is the feather stitch. And just for fun, maybe I'll do a double on this side. So I'm going to stay on this side, as I mentioned. Okay, and then if you were wanting a symmetrical design, then you could do 2 on this side and then 2 on the other side and just keep alternating. It's a really pretty effective stitch. And I'm over the thread. There we go, we got a little bit of a shorter one, so we've got some interest. Okay, I'm going to do the other side and then we'll move on to the blanket stitch. Okay, to work the blanket stitch, it's also called the buttonhole stitch. You're going to come up right at the beginning of your line. So let's say this was the a blanket edge. You're going to come up right on that line. Or this is also the stitch that you would use to embroider or attach wool applique. And that's a really beautiful look for folk art. Okay, and then you're going to take your thread and run it the length of the line that you're trying to outline with this stitch. Okay, go into the fabric straight up, perpendicular to the line. Okay, so it really forms a T. Your line is this way, and you want your stitch to come this way. And again, I'm over that line right here. That will lock it into place. And then the secret to just a great looking buttonhole stitch is you want to just keep these spokes sorry, I lost my train of thought. You want to keep these spokes an equal distance apart. Okay? And that is as simple as that. The blanket stitch or buttonhole stitch is really easy. It's just hard to remember how to start it. So just remember, you don't want to start at the spoke. You want to start at the base of the line, the line that you're trying to outline. And I go into detail on this on page 31 of the book. Okay, but this should just give you a good visual. And you can add interest by making the lines longer and shorter. Sure, just find a pattern and stick with it. And then I'll make this one long. Up to the corner, make a nice long one. Maybe we can add a flower on the end of that. That'd be kind of cute. And then just work the stitches the same on the other side and see if you can get them to match up or get close. You know my theory on that. right, I'll whiz through the rest of these, and then we'll go on to the Satin Stitch, which is how I did the Dalla Flotta embroidery in section 6 of the Nordic Log Cabin Quilt. Okay, the last thing I want to show is the Satin Stitch, which is basically the same thing as the stab stitch or the straight stitch, only in this case you'll be working parallel to your fabric. So you'll just go in on a drawn line, get this thread out of the way here, and then back out on a drawn line, and you'll keep the threads really close together. And you'll notice I put some little blue French knots on a few of the spokes of the blanket stitch. That blanket stitch is a great base to create stitches on each spoke for flowers or further embroidery. If you're new to embroidery, you can achieve so many wonderful textures and looks just with the 5 or 6 stitches that I've shown you. Okay, so I'm just going to rock through the rest of this. I think you get that basic idea. And then we'll take a look at it, and we'll take a look at the piece that I did for the book. Using just the stitches I've shown you, how far you can take the embroidery. These are the stitches that I used in the book and for the Nordic quilt. And then the sample in the book, I used the same stitches, and you can see here that you can just keep going and going and growing, and there's no right or wrong. You just can just have fun with it, use your imagination, use your basic stitches, and then once you're comfortable with the basics, expand on them and learn some more, and you'll find that the embroidering is a really wonderful way to spend some quiet time and some slow stitching. So I hope you'll give embroidery a try on your next project, be it a quilt, a sampler, or a favorite t-shirt. After all, stitching every day keeps the boredom away. Until next time, stitch on and always quilt as inspired.